I'm back at my favourite place, Into Moto in Warrington. Let's just cut to it, see what I'm on today. Here we have it, it's Suzuki's GSXS 125. Now I have done a review on one of these bikes before. I did it as a bit of a group test, I think. I just had a few bikes out and yeah, picked a GSXS. Today's going to be a little bit different though, because on that last test it was to see which I would choose out of a group of Japanese bikes that were available at Into Moto, whereas today this is solely about Suzuki's GSXS 125. I'm going to have a look round the usual way, but when we go for a ride I'm going to do the performance test. Lots of people have been telling me to do the performance test on one of these because, as you know, the test I do, when I get to that sharp left bend, I've never had anything other than a sports bike 125 get to 60 mile an hour. And people seem to think that this Suzuki will do. So, yeah, as soon as I heard that, I've got to try it. So yeah, let's have a look round first. We'll go through some specs for the bike and then we'll go for a ride. Start with the close-up. There is just something about the blue on a Suzuki that just makes them look smart. I really do like the colour. They do these in various different colours. I've been on I think it was a white one I went on last time, but there's just something about the blue. It just makes it look awesome. I think every bike's got clear lenses now, so I'm going to have to stop mentioning them because they've all got them. Exhaust, yeah, it looks quite wide for a 125 bike. Most of them are quite slim, but that does look kind of hefty, so I don't know about that. Curious as to what that sounds like. It does look like a stock exhaust. This has just got the single disc at the front and what looks like a very small single disc at the rear. Now, the bike itself weighs 135 kilograms, so that means it's a light bike to move around. It's not the lightest bike in the world, it's nowhere near the heaviest. I would say as 125s go, it's probably on the lighter side. Not quite scooter, not quite these tiny little bikes, but you can see how easy it is to push about, so it would suit somebody who's looking at downsizing or wants something a little bit lighter. Let's talk power plant. So this has got the Suzuki 125cc engine. It delivers the maximum 14.8 horsepower, so it's on the limit as to what you can have legally in the UK out of a 125, so I'm expecting good things on the performance test. It is a chain drive, it's got 6 gears as well. I'm expecting good things. Seat height on this is 785 millimeters, so it's not the tallest 125, but it's not the smallest either. Let me throw my leg over and then you can compare your height to mine. I'm 5'8" with a 29-inch inseam. I'll show you what I look like and then you can gauge that on your own size. Now, I am flat foot on both sides, but only just. I haven't got much of a bend in my leg, but I am comfortably flat foot, so if you're anywhere near my height, you'll have no problem. As far as seating position goes, finally, it's a comfortable one for me. So what we've got with this is a nice up straight back position. I'm not stretching for the bars, I'm not leaning over the tank, I'm not putting any weight on my wrists. I am comfortable, nice and up straight. The only thing I'm not loving at the minute is the sun is proper glaring in my eyes and I've not brought my cap today. That would have helped. Actual riding position seems nice. We'll find out shortly when we go for a ride just how nice. Just the standard for buttons. There's not lots to play on this bike with just your horn, indicator, high low beam and flash. Again, just the standard. And on the other side, just slightly different to standard, you've got your engine start, your cut off, but you've also got your hazard warning lights there as well. Now the screen on this is an old school digital screen, but it's got lots of information on there. So I'm really happy with that, because the last couple of bikes I've been on have missed the gear indicator, and a gear indicator for me is not an essential, but it's a nice luxury to have, to know what gear you're in when you're approaching junctions and stuff. It just makes life a little bit easier. Yes, I'm a wuss. Yes, I know it's not essential, but it's just a luxury I have come accustomed to. Nice big prominent speedo, no problem seeing that, even with today being nice and shiny, loads of sun, but you can still see that really clearly. You've got a clock, you have got fuel gauge going up this side, which is very good, and then you've got your rev counter going from left all the way over to right. Lots of information on that screen, but yeah, nothing that you don't need, all very useful. This bike does come with an 11 litre fuel tank. 125's very fuel efficient. So this bike is currently up for sale within Moto for £3,199. So as far as it being a used bike bargain goes, I will say it's a lot cheaper than a new one, so you are saving money there. But for me, it's proven in the ride. Let's go for a ride. I'll test the performance out with my usual performance test. We'll talk comfort, we'll talk brakes, we'll talk everything on the ride, so make sure you stay with me for that. Let me get my helmet, my gloves, and let's go. Oh god, I forgot I left these on. Now I've just come down to Moto because I've just dropped off my press bike, and luckily enough this bike was available for me to take out, so I've dropped off the Vosges 525. I'm going to miss having that in the garage, but yeah, I've been wanting to do a speed test on one of these for a while. Ooh, now that actually feels like a Suzuki I had years ago, where you just press it once, and once you've pressed it once it just basically keeps going till the bike started. I wouldn't have expected that on a 125. Wouldn't have expected it. Anyway, let's give it a little bit of a rev. Let's see what it sounds like. Yeah, do you know, it sounds like a nice 125cc bike. Not lurry, doesn't have a high pitch noise like some of them do. Just sounds nice. Right, let's turn it round and get cracking. Ooh, now instantly both feet up. Yeah, I'm in my happy place. It's a really comfortable bike. You can sense it straight away because my back's straight. I'm not stretching for the bars. I've got a nice little bend in them, to be fair. And instantly you can feel in first gear it has got a little bit about it, this bike. You can feel it's very nippy in the low gears. Well, it certainly is in first. Oh, nice and smooth through the gears. Always good. I'm going to take it up to the Nationals. I'm going to stretch its legs a little bit, and I'm going to try it with my performance test. Now, my performance test is different to what everybody else is doing. I'm not trying to copy anybody. I found a little area where I can kind of push it and get a comparison to other motorcycles that I've took on the same road to see what speed they get to by a certain bend. So I'll explain it more on the way if you've never seen the channel before, just so you can understand what I'm actually doing and how I'm testing it. But this bike, I've got to say, is really a nice comfortable place to be. I'm doing 30 miles an hour. No, there's no wind protection, but at 30 mile an hour, yeah, you don't really need it, do you? It is another cold day in November. I've got my heated gloves on, I've got my hoodie on, I've got my usual attire, my jeans. It's like my bike work uniform now with these jeans. Don't like harping on about anything, but these gloves so far, I charged them fully, and since that time I've been on 3 rides out with my mates. I've been on, how many times? I reckon I've done at least 4 or 5 bike reviews on different bikes, and I've been out riding those for an hour or so. So I have used them quite a lot, and I've not had to recharge them yet. And I'm astounded by that, because when I've used my other stuff, like 2 hours max, in fact usually one big ride, and yeah, you end up with cold hands because they just don't last. However, yeah, these are still going, so yeah, they're doing really well. Well happy with these. As per normal, I'll put a link in the description, but I cannot stress this enough. And I'm not trying to like make money or anything off these, I'm really not. It's just, I know what I was like last winter. I went out and paid, I'm sure it was around £250 for a set of heated gloves, and yes, they're decent for a couple of hours, but that's it. And these seem to be just going and going. I'm sure they're going to run out at some point, and I'll let you know when they do, but at the minute, to say that I've had some heated gloves and used them ride after ride after ride off one charge is phenomenal, and especially at the price, because the price for these in it, like English pounds, I'm sure they're less than £100. So paying less than £100 for some gloves that are heated is amazing. And even it taking the heated element out of them, they're actually well protected, well padded gloves in their own right. So even without the heated element, I would say the gloves themselves are great and good value. The heated thing's just a bonus. Sneaky. Now, let's make the most of being on a small 125, shall we? The traffic situation is always bad, especially if you're close to a busy town like Warrington. But that's why I always say that these 125s and scooters and these kind of smaller capacity bikes are just brilliant for town riding, because you can beat the traffic, you can scoot past everything, and you can make progress. This bike does feel quite fast for a 125. I'm putting it out there. You can get an initial impression in just off riding the 30 mile an hour roads. You can feel how quickly they're getting there and how often you're having to change gear because they run out of power. And yeah, this seems like it's gonna be quite good when we get to those nationals. I'm on nationals now, and it's getting up to 50 mile an hour with absolutely no issues at all. Usual test, I am going to give it the beans down here, get up to 60 mile an hour, hopefully before the first sharp bend. If I can do it, then it'll be the first bike to do it that isn't a sports bike, because I've only ever done it on a sports bike. Bikes similar to this that I've attempted it on, so I've tried it on Yamaha's MT125, I've tried it on the Vojar 125, and those two were the closest to date, and it was something like 57 and 58 or something like that. They were very close but not close enough, whereas this, it's got potential. This traffic is awful though. I want to get out, I don't want to stay here for too long. Right, I think that gap's going to be big enough. Let's go. looking good, you know. It's looking real good. Come on. Oh, it's done it before the bend. Wow. That has just... That's really surprised me. Really surprised me. I thought it was going to be close. I thought it was going to be kind of comparable to the MT and the Vosges. That's what I expected. I thought it was going to be just out. But that is actually faster than some of the recent sports bikes I've just done. So, I would say that got to 60 pretty much where the CBR 125 got to 60. So that is like the third fastest I've ever took down that stretch. And you've got to bear in mind as well, at my weight, like, I'm trying my best to lose weight, and my journey is on my other channel for anyone interested. But this bike has just shocked me at how quick it's just done that. 60 mile an hour at a place where the Honda CBR 125 got to 60. Now that is a sports bike, and it's the first time ever that I've had anything other than a sports bike 125 reach that. It's the first time ever. Now I know it's only an indicated 60, but it does genuinely feel fast. It feels like it is doing 60 mile an hour, and it seemed to get to 50 really quickly. I genuinely thought it was going to be very close to the GSXR 125, which to date has been the fastest to get to 60 mile an hour. And I would expect it to be similar, because I'm sure they use the same engine. Both got 14.8 horsepower, both at the maximum. They're probably tuned very similar. But the difference with this, it hasn't got all of the fairing, so I kind of expected it to be a little bit slower than that. In fact, no, in all honesty, I expected it to be quite a lot slower than that, because the MT seems to be quite a bit slower than the R125 that I tried from Yamaha. So I expected it to be on par with the MT, but it's not. It's not far off the GSXR, and that for me is an absolute credit to this bike. Wow. Let's just run through this bike then. So comfort, yeah, it's a really comfortable 125cc motorcycle. I'm really impressed with it. I'm really happy with the comfort. It's a nice upright bike. I'm not leaning forward, I'm not putting any pressure on my wrist. So unlike the sports bikes that I've mentioned, that you're leaning forward and you're putting a lot of weight onto your wrists, or in my case I'm putting a lot of weight onto my wrists, I'm not doing that with this bike. I'm sat up straight, and yet the performance is up there with the sports bikes, and that for me is outstanding, because you're getting all of the benefits of a sports bike ride, in that you have got one of the fastest 125cc motorcycles, but you're doing it in comfort, which is just unheard of on any other bike. You usually sacrifice a little bit of performance for the comfort, and that's what I was expecting with this. But no, I would fancy my chances on this against pretty much any other sports bike, because even between this and the GSXR, there's not a lot of difference between where they both indicated 60, and yet the GSXR felt really small and really kind of, even for someone my height, it just felt really cramped. Whereas I don't feel that on this bike. This bike certainly feels more suitable for somebody who is a little bit bigger, and yet the performance is right up there. So well played, Suzuki, the first one to do it. So I cannot do anything other than recommend this as your first bike, as your bike to downsized to as a run around for town, as a, you know, work commuter, whatever, I can't fault it. I really can't fault it today. Yeah, I really can't. It's more than happy around town, it's more than happy on the faster roads, and yeah, as a 125cc motorcycle, it's all you can ask for, really. You want it to go quick enough, keeping up with traffic. You want it to stop quick enough for your own safety. You want it to be comfortable, and this just, if you go down the check sheet, it's just tick, 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 tick. So, yeah, it does what it says on the tin. Now, for me, personally, yes, it ticks not a lot of boxes. It ticks every box as far as the checklist goes. However, would I buy one? Well, personally, I would say if I was a new rider, I would jump at the chance of getting something like this all day long. I would. I don't see why you wouldn't. I don't see why anybody wouldn't. I don't see why, now I've been on it, anybody would go out and get a sports bike 125, because you get a sports bike 125, you are less comfortable, you've got potential for sore back, sore wrists, and yeah, you're getting similar performance out of this. I know the only difference really is the looks, and sometimes, and I've actually talked about this on a recent video I've done, when you buy a motorcycle, you buy it with your heart, not your head. In the majority of cases, you buy something that just makes you feel that little bit special, or you look at and you just wow at. Well, yeah, I get a sports bike for that, and for that reason, you know, I get why you would get a sports bike. But if you want just a bike that is going to be quick enough for dual carriageways, maybe even a little bit of a motorway run as well, then this is going to be a much better option for you than a sports bike. I'm going to take this bike back to Into Moto rather than bore you while I'm outside. If you're interested in one of these, because I think they've got two in at the minute. Sure, they've got two in. I don't know if they've got two blue ones or the slightly different colour variant, I'm sure, but they're both very similar priced, around the £3,000 or just over. So if you're interested, I'll put a link in the description for Into Moto, and if you have a budget of £3,000 and you're looking for this type of bike, you really should be interested. It's a low mileage example that goes like stink. What's not to like? Anyway, I shall catch you guys on the next one. I'm just going to carry on filtering and battering through this traffic. So for now, it's a bye from me. Laters.